RussFigueroa.com.
The best weapon you can have in the Prohibition War is your mind. Fill your head with the knowledge you need by checking out this latest entry in the Russ Belville Show's Reformer's Reader.
Welcome back, everyone. 31 after the hour, and today on the Reformer's Reader, we're taking a look at this new book. It's entitled Arthritis and Marijuana, How Marijuana, Diet, and Exercise Can Heal Arthritis. Our guest is the author, Edward R. Cook. Edward, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Russ.
All right, I got a copy
here.
Yeah, I got a copy here of Arthritis and Marijuana, and the back cover just says, after years of working and recreating very hard, I found myself with debilitating arthritis. And so the book is kind of a recollection of your experiences trying to overcome arthritis, and you found that marijuana can be a very helpful adjunct to that. Give folks the basis of this book. How is marijuana going to help their arthritis?
Well, for me and for many others, it helps people feel their body more intrinsically, and it gives gives you a better attitude towards pain. It helps you, kind of come to peace with your debilitation, and it helps you kind of work through things. And for me, it also kind of helps me get through exercise and get through some motivational factors with it and so forth, so that I can move better. My body's less crusty, and I have a little better attitude towards pain and towards debilitation and everything. And it kind of comes full circle. There's a lot more that I can describe, but I mean, it just, I guess in a word, it's about the attitude towards, your body just feels better, and your mind feels better. It helps, and it's a natural medicine.
We've spoken to many doctors on the show who explain the anti-inflammatory properties of cannabinoid therapies, and the physical aspect of this, I think people are already starting to accept, but I find it interesting how your book talks about the mental aspects of using cannabis as a therapy here, and I think this is something that's really underserved in the patient community, and that is dealing with the mental hardship of being disabled, of being in pain a lot. Talk a little bit about that and how marijuana helped you.
Well, as I said, it helps you feel your body more intrinsically. I guess that's the physical part of it. But also it gives you a little better attitude, and your mood is much better. A lot of times, you're miserable, you're not happy, and you're kind of depressed and everything. Well, this kind of makes you look at things a little more rationally, and kind of think, well, okay, I have this, but how can I work with it? And it kind of, it makes you kind of hop along with it a little bit better. And then other things start to come into play once you start overcoming your arthritis. That is such a great natural kick to you that it really helps with any kind of depression, and it makes you feel so much better about overcoming arthritis and your disability and so forth. So that helps mentally, and it's an attitude changer, a mood changer, which makes things for the better. I think that's part of. I guess I don't want to use the word high to it, because that kind of bring some stereotypes to it and whatnot. But there is some truth to it, that it helps with your attitude and your mood.
Edward, your book mentions how marijuana, diet, and exercise can heal arthritis. And I'm thinking of those last two, the diet and the exercise part, and how marijuana might help in that respect. I know marijuana is famous for giving you the munchies. Maybe that helps with the diet aspect somehow, and marijuana relaxes you as you're trying to exercise. Perhaps that's part of it as well. What recommendations do you make in the book as far as diet and exercise go?
Well, when you exercise, it tends to give you a better appetite for better foods. I find, as far as like the marijuana with the exercise, I find it's not stereotypical. Like, people will talk about the amotivational effect, where the stoner on the couch or whatever sits there and does nothing. I find the opposite. I find it motivates me and gives me some have said it buzzes my body so that I want to move. I want to work on things. And I say, well, okay, my knee's aching here. Let me see if I can do something about it. And I find I do the body rolling and some other things. As I say, it makes me feel my body more intrinsically, and I move and once you get through that, and even without any kind of marijuana, exercise will do this, whether you swim, whether you run, whether you do things. After you exercise, you have the endorphins and other, things in your body and in your mind. For me and many others, it helps you eat better foods, like especially right after exercise. I have an appetite to eat good food like apples and bananas and that kind of food, and I'm motivated to eat such things. I have a certain type of appetite to do so. I stress in the book that it's okay to eat, your other things, pizza and, other so-called junk foods and things, as long as you eat the good foods first. And you can generally do that immediately after exercise when you have that certain type of appetite. And I find marijuana does that. And depending on what you do in your life, in addition to, marijuana use and so forth, your exercise, your running and things like that, it tends to help eat, better food, gives me a better appetite for better foods and so forth. And I think that can do, I dare say many people will echo that sentiment as well.
I will. I've been working on getting in better health, better shape, eating better. And I think you're right. I've found that marijuana helps me. When you get a craving when you're not high, it always seems to be for the junkiest thing available. But when you are high, when you are using cannabis, carrots are just as good as potato chips, it seems.
It helps with a little bit of self-discipline as far as food goes.
Yeah. We're speaking with Edward R. Cook. He's the author of Arthritis and Marijuana, How Marijuana Diet and Exercise Can Heal Arthritis. And you mentioned that technique of body rolling. I have to show my listeners here on the webcam, page 47, demonstrating the body rolling technique. And Edward, I got to say, in black and white, that picture makes it hard to discern that that's a softball.
It is. I do state in the book that it's optional. I mean, there's different textures of different balls. You can use like kids' playground balls. You can experiment with whatever works for you. The thing about a ball, you can roll with it and get right to the exact spot. It's not like there's a hard edge to it, that makes things painful and whatnot. And because you're using your own body weight, you can apply whatever pressure you want. So it doesn't have to be painful. It can be somewhat pleasurable to roll out any kind of aches and pains and tightness in your muscles and so forth. And usually with the back of the knee, there's usually a tight glob back there that you have to kind of rolling like dough, you kind of roll it out a little bit. It makes things feel a lot better when you loosen that glob up a little bit.
We've got some great resources in the back of the book as well, pointing to Arthritis Foundation and Normal and Arthritis Advisor, AARP, a bunch of books here in Normal group publications, Clint Warner's book, great book, Mitch Earlywine's book. How much research did you put into finding this out about arthritis and marijuana? Was it something you'd already figured out from doing it personally, or did you read research and go, oh, I ought to try marijuana in this aspect?
Well, I did it all, actually. I had my own, personal experiments with it, but I also did a lot of research, too, and read a lot. And, what works for one may not work for another, and people have to find what works for them. So I put all those resources up there so that people could figure it out for themselves. There's all kinds of ways to go about healing, and, people need to figure out what works for them. When you have to kind of be aware of, a doctor or some sort of salesman will say, this cures everything, this cures this cures that. Well, it may cure for you, it might not cure for me. And different sources offer up those options for people and so forth. And, some people, to each their own. If, they don't want to use cannabis, they don't want to use marijuana, they'd rather go to the pharmaceutical route, well, that's them, that's fine. But, for myself and many others, marijuana is an option, and it should always remain an option. And all those resources gives people several options. And I did do a lot of research. I wanted to make it a competent book, and I wanted to make it worthy for people, and that's why I put those resources in there.
Excellent. Now, with respect to arthritis treatment, have you found different types or strains of marijuana to have different effect for you?
Well, that's interesting. Since I wrote that book, a lot's come out about strains, and there's a lot of different delivery methods, oils and topicals and so forth. And I find with strains, there's a little bit of marketing going on. There's a little bit of overratedness to it. I find what happens is they leave a lot of human element out of it. Like your mood at that particular, the set and setting of that particular day. And let's say you have a certain strain. Well, what about the freshness of it? How has it been stored? Like, was it grown indoors or was it grown outdoors? There's way too many variables to say that this strain will do well for multiple sclerosis. That strain will do well for arthritis. I think people need to look around a little bit, experiment around a little bit. Generally speaking, what you would want would be like a 50-50 indica sativa. You'd want THC as well as CBD. You don't want to. I think what's happening, I'm afraid to say, with the legalization movement, you're going to get some, GMO, some genetically modified things going on here, and I really don't like how they strip away the THC and that how they take away from the natural plant, and they're trying to itemize things a little bit too much. Mm-hmm. I think if you have a natural plant, with a balanced strain, so to speak, that carries so much better than if you strip away the THC and have a CBD only plant. Now, I will say, like in certain cases, like with pediatric epilepsy, for example, you really don't want the THC. Adult dementia, you don't want the THC so much. So those, you might want to go with a CBD heavy strain and a THC less so strain. But for the average adult, you want the THC because that does help with the mental aspect. You want, a balanced strain. So sometimes I think there's a little bit of marketing. People will say, well, this does this does that. I think it's more up to the individual and all the other variables that I mentioned there.
All right. Well, the book is Arthritis and Marijuana, How Marijuana Diet and Exercise Can Heal Arthritis. Edward R. Cook is our guest and the author. And Edward, tell folks where they can get a copy of the book or get in contact with you online if they want to.
Well, you can, those words, arthritis and marijuana, if you type in those words, you should be able to find it anywhere books are sold, like be it a Nook, a Kindle, Amazon, libraries you can special order it from, bookstores you can special order it from. You can go to my website, www.arthritisandmarijuana.com. It's an ebook, it's a paperback, as well as an audiobook, so it's out there. You might have to search for it a little bit, but it is common. It is up on most all platforms, and it's a fairly easy read, and it's to the point, and I think it can help a lot of people, and that was my intent when I wrote it.
Thank you for doing so, Edward R. Cook. Thank you for being a guest here on the Russ Belville Show, and good luck with the book sales.
Thanks so much for having me, and I hope we can help a lot of people.
All right. Stay tuned, folks. The anti-drug public service announcement of the day is coming up next, and then a radical rant. We're going to talk a little bit more about your brain on marijuana. Stay tuned. We're back after this.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.